he came to Tel Aviv, and he's a Sephardic rabbi. He's the leader of the Sephardic community. And when he got in Jerusalem, the Sephardim they were allowed to be married between the 17th of Tammuz till the 1st of Av. Like during the 3 weeks where it's the time of mourning, Ashkenazim don't get married. Sephardim, they get married until the 9 days. But in Tel Aviv, when he became there, he was the rabbi of Tel Aviv. In Tel Aviv, that was not the case. And when he arrived there, he was surprised that was the case. Many rabbis before him just kind of gave in to pressure, Sephardic rabbis, and they just had all the Sephardim not get married during the 3 weeks. Now, another thing that surprised him when he got to Tel Aviv was that they were holding weddings on Motzei Shabbos. And he would ask, how are you doing this? And it takes a lot of preparation. You must be preparing during Shabbat. And no, we do everything right when Shabbat ends. We start preparing for the wedding. He knew that wasn't the case. So one time he said they walked there for an hour to the hall on Shabbos to see what was going on. And they were preparing for Shabbos, cooking, and etc., doing forbidden things on Shabbos. And he asked one of the people, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Kfar Saba. He's like, how'd you get here? He's like, I drove here. I don't want to lose my job. And so they were desecrating the Shabbat. So he took a hard stance. No one's going to desecrate the Shabbat under my leadership. So he forbade having weddings on Motzei Shabbat because they would prepare. Also, they would prepare the bride also throughout Shabbat, get her ready. She's not going to just roll into her wedding. She needs to prepare herself. So he put an end to that. Now the heads of the wedding halls, the owners, they were very upset because they were losing a lot of money because of this law. So Ovadia Yosef says, I understand that, but I'm not going to compromise. That's the halacha. But I will I will make a concession. And they said, what's the concession? He says, well, this concession, I'm going to establish that Sephardim can get married 13 more days of the year, between the 17th of Tammuz till 1st of Av. And that's the halacha. And he also said that they can do it also after Lag BaOmer, which is more customary today. But so he gave them that concession. He kind of quieted them down. And so the rabbis then pushed back against Rav Ovadia Yosef and said, how can you do that? This hasn't been done in Tel Aviv. And so he said to them two answers. He said, number one, this is the custom in Jerusalem. Are you more pious than those in Jerusalem? That's what he said to the rabbis. And then he said also, in the time of if you don't allow the Sephardim to get married during this time period, everyone gets married after the 9th of Av, and then the wedding halls are booked for so long, and you're making the bride and groom wait for so long. And he says maybe in olden days they had the ability to protect themselves from touching or doing forbidden things, but today it's more difficult. So he brought those two explanations. He says, therefore, if we're allowed to get married during this time, we should allow the people to get married. And that was his pushback, and he kept the law like that. And he said, anybody after me should follow this as well. And so they consider. He says, I'm responsible primarily for the Sephardim, even though the Ashkenazim do differently. And they accepted my ruling. And so that's what he said. And they accepted this ruling that no weddings after Motzei Shabbos, and those 13 days they can get married. And then he said like this. This is his statement. In every halachic issue, if you're going to be stringent, so I see the stringency probably would be to not get married for those 13 days, take care that undue leniency will not be born out of your stringency. It's like if you don't allow them to get married enough days of the year, an undue leniency, which be Motzei Shabbos, would come from that, having weddings on Motzei Shabbos, and then you'd be doing forbidding things on Shabbos. He says you have to be careful. Being overly stringent in one area sometimes can lead you to be lenient in other areas as well. So that's the story. And what I like about the story is kind of thinking through it, there's a few components. One is that really embody Rav Ovadia Yosef's perspective. Number one, he was very zealous when it came to halacha. If something was forbidden, he was not afraid to say it. He had very broad shoulders. He took care of the Sephardim. He was their voice. He built up the Sephardim. He says, this is my responsibility to help the Sephardim, and that's what he did in this case. He was open to being lenient. Many times it's no great wisdom. It's not a great feat to say something's forbidden. Everybody can say everything's forbidden. It's not so hard to do that. To prove that something's permitted when it really is permitted, that takes some strength, some courage, and knowledge. And he was able to do that in a lot of cases. Also, like, he taught through stories. This is like a story that he taught through. He taught a lot of halachas in this case. He taught through stories, and he was able to connect to different people in that manner as well. And also, like, he taught through persuasion. Like, he tried to persuade you. So he brought them those two, the rabbis brought them those two explanations for why this could be permitted. So I think this is a story that embodies his life, his philosophy, and there's much more to learn. Hopefully we will do so.